So, Mr. Kakakhel, should I conclude from your conversation that Cancun was another failure?
Cancun was produced complex agreements on complex issues, and therefore it would be simplistic to either call the Cancun agreements a complete failure or a complete success. I would say that the Cancun agreements were in some respects a success and in many respects a failure. The Cancun agreements saved the international, the multilateral, the global process of decision making. If Cancun had failed like Copenhagen had failed in 2009, the developed countries would have lost complete interest, and the developing countries would have no means of influencing the developed countries' behavior. So what we saw in Cancun was basically the choice for developing countries was to insist on their demands, which were supported by science, and then face the prospect of a no from the developed countries, or to accept whatever they could get and hope that the process will continue and it will produce positive results.
Were developing countries able to assert themselves on the developed countries? Were they able to communicate their concerns
They were
effectively?
able to communicate because, after all, you have 150 or so developing countries. The concerns are reflected in the documents. After all, like in the shared vision section of the document, in the Cancun agreement, there is an acknowledgement that developed countries have to make deep cuts in their emissions, that they have the prime responsibility.
But is there a will also on their part that they will cut the emissions?
I am afraid we did not see evidence of the will, because the evidence of the will would have come in the form first of their agreement to cut their emissions deeply, second by their agreement to provide money, financial resources to developing countries, to adapt to the negative effects of climate change, as well as to go for a low carbon development model, to provide technology at concessional rates. If that is the litmus test of the political will, it was conspicuous by its absence.
To what extent Pakistan is victim of climate change, and to what extent it is being helped by the global community?
Well, so far there is very little evidence of concrete, significant actions by the government of Pakistan to address the multidimensional challenges that climate change poses to this country. So we don't have any actions by the government of Pakistan, and we do not yet have actions by the international community, by the rich countries to support Pakistan. What we definitely need to do is for the government of Pakistan to carry forward the process which it has begun, to identify the negative impacts of climate change, to look at the drivers of those negative impacts, to see the sectors of the economy which will be affected badly, and then to come up with action plans that it can present to the international community, to the institutions that have been set up. For instance, in Cancun, there is an adaptation committee, and the adaptation governments, in fact, have been asked to give their opinions, to give their inputs on their strategies, their plans of action by 25th of February. So I would hope that the government of Pakistan would come up with concrete proposals, as has been done by the government of Bangladesh and a number of governments in the developing world, so that the developed countries do not complain, look, we don't know what you guys are asking for,
Yes.
and therefore we cannot tell you whether we are in a position to support you or not.
Do you see political commitment at this level that could really tell the developed world that what we really are looking for?
You mean about Pakistan?
Yes, Pakistan's
I think
is there political will?
the political commitment is there, which is evidenced by the existence of a high-level committee, which is headed by the Prime Minister, the Committee on Climate Change. We had a task force which has submitted a report, and at the moment, the preparation of the National Plan of Action on Climate Change is in an advanced stage of preparation. The draft has been prepared. We've had a number of interministerial meetings convened by the Ministry of Environment, and the political commitment is there. But how does the political commitment express itself in the form of concrete actions, which is basically actions, adaptation actions in areas which will be affected? For instance, our water security will be drastically affected by climate change.
Yes.
So we need to do detailed studies on how to cope with a world, with a situation where we will have less water coming from the glacial melt and unpredictable quantities of water coming from the monsoons. These are the two main sources of water for Pakistani agriculture and for our other uses, including drinking water. Our water, surface water, comes from the glacial melt, and the groundwater or underground water comes from the monsoons, from the rains.
There are different NGOs working on climate change. LEAD Pakistan, together with CDKN, is also working in this area. How do you look at their role and involvement in Pakistan, in Asia? To what extent such organization can benefit the cause of climate change in the
I
region?
think in all areas of sustainable development, in the very field, in introducing the concept of sustainable development to the people of Pakistan, the civil society, of which the non-governmental organizations are an important part, have done far better than the governments. In fact, the civil society has nudged and cajoled and encouraged the government to recognize, to see the writing on the wall, the global consensus on sustainable development. I would like to compliment the Pakistani NGOs, LEAD Pakistan, Sustainable Development Policy Institute, and a number of other organizations such as the WWF, the IUCN, the Wetland International, Wetland International, and a number of local NGOs. They have done a marvelous job of raising awareness about environmental protection. The government, in fact, has been responding to and echoing the calls made by the civil society. Civil society, however, must not sit on its laurels. It has a very grim battle to fight, and I hope that the general public would respond to the repeated calls of civil society organizations, which do not have financial, organizational, or institutional resources to do their activities. They need the support. The media must support the calls for confronting and solving our environmental challenges, which are growing by the day. And unless these are addressed, we face a very difficult time.
How should Pakistan prepare itself for COP17? in December.
Basically, what Pakistan needs to prepare itself is for climate change. And COP17 is a part of the efforts to address climate change. Pakistan needs, as I mentioned, to carry forward the process for the preparation of the National Plan on Climate Change, the National Plan of Action. It must then segregate and prepare detailed programs of action on adaptation, on mitigation, on the deployment of technology, on the allocation of financial resources, on the enhancement of capacity of institutions and individuals and communities, on, for instance, forestation and protecting the wetlands, the lakes, and the mangroves. These plans and the actions taken for preparing them will provide the essential raw material for the briefs that the Pakistani delegation will take to COP17. So we must have a holistic approach to climate change. It's not enough to make a spectacular performance in an international conference and then come home and sit back and relax and say, we did a marvelous job in Copenhagen or in Cancun or in Durban next year. We have to do nothing else, and international support will be coming to do what we as a nation have to do.
Thank you very much, sir.